Hi, Rachel. Rachel Quinn. Very nice to meet you.
Hi, how are you, Kieran?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Can you tell us why we're here today? Can you tell us about the corruption and again the people that were involved in it? And can you go from the very start?
Okay, so a child, the Irish state ran surveillance and intelligence on me due to me having a direct connection to Martin McGuinness. Now, as part of the 1998 Good Friday Agreement, those records were supposed to be put away and to be finished. Instead, in 2018, my surveillance records were resurrected by a politician in County Tipperary named Michael Lowry. And in that, in 2018, 20 years later, 2 decades later, he waited until a year after Martin McGuinness had passed away. So it was very timed and very calculated in the time that it was done, but it would be suggested that there's somebody who wanted to harm me because they can be seen to be the direct benefactor of what has been done. So what occurred, and I have the Tusla records that came to be in my possession in October 2024, and within it, it's detailed where it says Helen /Maura. Can you acknowledge notification and print off a relationship for me to complete? Thank you. Okay. Now, this is a digital Tusla record, and the handwriting is saying that basically it wants the narrative of what has occurred to be re-scripted and rewritten. Now, that has a 96% handwriting match to that of Michael Lowry, which is legally enforceable. So with that, there would have been, to do that, there would have been across the Gardaí and the HSC and Tusla and courts directions to falsify records about me. I actually have all of those in my possession and they were uploaded. So another direction within it is Tipperary specific official restrictions, TSOR, Old Army Code, and it details within it that my access to services are to be withdrawn, which subsequently happened in County Tipperary, and I have all the records to prove it. And my children have been impacted by it. It's quite serious. In medical, being denied breast cancer treatment and surgeries. My son was denied having his tonsils removed, being denied educational services, support services, state benefits like, let's say, the lone parent. I was refused unless I got the data from the two fathers of my two children, even though I'm a single parent. I met the criteria, eligibility, not allowed. So then another direction, he actually detailed out, okay, the story, the script on what was going to happen in court. And it says TH09. Now, within the courts, there is no area 09, okay? Area 08 is County Tipperary, and it gives the specific details of our family law. And it says referral added and attachment uploaded on CCJS. And that's the Court Criminal Justice System. Okay, 2018. So we have a 96% handwriting match. How did the politician Michael Lowry's handwriting end up in a digital record in Tusla in County Tipperary? Now, of interest, okay, I suppose to explain how could this be possible? It's been identified by the European Union a number of years ago that we have serious deficiencies in Ireland in that politicians appoint judges, politicians appoint superintendents, okay, and politicians appoint leaders across various public sector bodies. So before I go into detail, a superintendent in County Tipperary and three Gardaí were identified by the Garda Ombudsman to have falsified my Garda records and to have falsified reports about me to Tusla in 2018. In 2018, within the Tusla records, a HSC member of staff actually details all these various contacts with professionals that I've mental health issues. Now, I went and I got from each professional to say that didn't happen. The Gardaí even actually created a record that I tried to commit suicide. They arrived to my house. I'd already gone off in the ambulance and there was nobody there. So that alone, that one falsified record meant I had to go to my doctor. My doctor gives me a letter. No such incident occurred. I've gone back on this lady's chart a year before and a year after. No such incident. And if there was any mention of suicide, be it in a public or private hospital, I would be informed due to the serious nature of it. And then separately, I got onto the National Ambulance Service to say, look, can you clarify, was I in an ambulance anywhere across Ireland? Got a letter back that basically I wasn't. So what has occurred is I basically run around where I'm accused of being an unfit mother to take custody of my children from me, and also that I have mental health issues. So I've been trapped for years, being brought in and out of courts, sometimes up to 4 times a month. And I'm not allowed the digital audio recordings. I've requested multiple times. The Judicial Council, all my complaints have disappeared. They've refused to give me the digital audio recordings that prove I'm being abused. They also prove that I'm telling the truth. Court files have disappeared. The solicitors' files have disappeared. I've gone through multiple complaint systems across the HSC and Gardaí and court to have the files corrected. I'm refused. There was a falsified court order made about me in January 2021. I was not in court. I had no legal representation in court, and I have documentation to prove there was no court for me that January. That court order was enforced while I underwent my breast cancer treatment, mastectomies. I was threatened that I was going to be taken out of hospital, dragged out of intensive care if I went ahead and I did that and I disrespected the court. And I couldn't understand what was going on. What court order? There was no court order against me. How could I be dragged out of court? How could I be sent to prison? So this continued on. So eventually, because the complaints with the Gardaí, the HSC, the courts correct my records, to give me my records, were all being refused. The Judicial Council found it's okay that you're not being given the digital audio recordings. We're not going to give you the court criminal justice system. And the judges did nothing wrong for abusing me. And as well, there is nothing about like court files don't just disappear. So that was fine. I went through every avenue of redress. I went to the data commissioners. I went to the Freedom of Information commissioners. I went to Children's Ombudsman. I went to the State's Ombudsman, and all stonewalled, okay? The State Ombudsman, I have in my possession records that in revenue in County Tipperary, And the county council in County Tipperary, they have the same reference number for me, despite operating on two completely independent systems. So how can they have the same reference number for me within two completely different systems? But it's because I've been targeted. So then I decided, right, going to have to do something else here. So because I've been financially ruined, I would have had an extremely good career. I've worked really hard. I have a number of level 9 master's level. I've a bachelor's honours degree. I've 4 level, ordinary level qualifications, and I've multiple other qualifications. But part of the persecution is to take my good name, to stop me from working, while denying me all access to state services, medical, educational, but my children are going through it as well. So that led me on to look for the government to enact the Constitution. So I was stonewalled. Now I have emails of over 2 years in duration where I consistently contacted various ministers, various government departments in Ireland, even the president, to say, you are duty bound by the Constitution of Ireland. I am giving you evidence that Michael Lowry, politician in County Tipperary, has targeted me and my children. He's falsified state records, not just in the HSC and Gardaí, across other bodies. I have all the data. I can prove to you that his direction in the Tusla file to remove my access to state services subsequently happened after 2018. I have records across various state bodies in County Tipperary to prove it. I can prove I have the Garda Ombudsman who identified the superintendent and the 3 Gardaí that falsified my records, but then all others disappeared, okay? Are all investigations stonewalled or they disappear? Enact the Constitution, stonewalled. So that I had over 3 years of trying to politically get intervention, and that's all documented in my possession. And even though Michael Lowry interfered in court proceedings, which is under Irish law and legislation supposed to be separate to the political side, that politicians should not be allowed to intervene, the politicians didn't help me despite being given the evidence. So separately then, I decided to go the legal route. So I went through making applications to district court, circuit court, high court, and even contacting the Supreme Court and the Chief Supreme Justice, okay? Now, all my applications were registered, and you're also allowed to serve by email where I have all the receipts, okay? All of my applications disappeared. Some of them came back to me, okay? And now, thankfully, they registered them, that I have the proof, where with a little note to tell me, oh, you can't do that in this court. We don't look after that. Go to a different court. So they were playing ping pong, sending me between the district circuit, the High Court, and the Supreme Court completely stonewalled me to deny me legal redress. So at that point, because I couldn't get legal aid, okay, I had met the criteria and eligibility for legal aid. Now, this is after years where I have spent tens of thousands in debt, borrowed with interest, that I could no longer afford private representation. And because of my cancer, I couldn't borrow. I met the criteria and eligibility for legal aid. All my applications to have the Constitution enacted in the High Court all stonewalled and disappeared. So I contacted the law library, the Law Society, to say, basically, look, this is my situation. All my legal applications are disappearing. Anytime I contact a solicitor to represent me, they're either silent or they tell me that they don't have the resources for a case of the scale and magnitude involved in what's happened to me. And I told them that the legal aid, everything is disappearing. And they stonewalled me. So at that point, I contacted the Irish Human Equality Commissioner, okay, to try and take an application under human rights. And that was stonewalled. So that's where it led me to go to European level. So the human rights, I took it to the European level. I'm still waiting. I've no response over 8 months later. Legally, I went to the European Court of Human Rights. The European Court of Human Rights told me I had not exhausted redress in Ireland. Now, I queried the European Court of Human Rights. If you are denied redress in Ireland, how can you actually seek redress? And okay. So I also contacted at a European level. I contacted various European Parliament in relation to in Ireland that there's no mechanism to remove a politician who has targeted me. I highlighted with them SIPO, the regulatory oversight for public officials, actually has no regulatory authority over politicians whom are TDs. So that means in Ireland, we have no regulatory and we have no oversight over Michael Lowry politician. And the actors implicated in the harm that has been done to us are judges, solicitors, leaders of the HSC, and senior Gardaí and regular Gardaí, which means we've no avenue of redress. So that then led me to say politically, can you please enforce the Good Friday Agreement, enforce European anti-corruption law, enforce European data protection, because they're not being followed in Ireland. I've attempted anti-corruption, I've attempted whistleblowing, I've attempted complaints, I've gone through regulators oversight, I've gone politically, I've even gone to the president, I've gone through all the legal applications possible. I've walked into the High Court and been told because I didn't have physical orders, they couldn't do anything. I was stonewalled and blocked. European level, what I was told, it's up to each member state how they enforce the European law. So what is the point of European legislation for the Irish people or indeed British people? Because I hold dual citizenship, which means the Good Friday Agreement has been breached against me in my capacity as a British person, as an Irish person, and also as an Irish British person. And there's nothing. And apparently the Good Friday Agreement, it's at the discretion of the guarantors. I've contacted the UK, I've contacted the Europe level and the European Commissioner, and I've contacted the US. But it has now emerged that the Good Friday Agreement has no policy, it has no process, and it has no enforcement mechanism. So it can't be enforced. Now, at the minute, we are asylum seekers seeking refuge in Belgium, okay? And we are under international and subsidiary protection pending having our asylum heard. Now, I've separately lodged a Frankovich claim, which will be heard in November. That's where the Irish state, I'm taking action against the Irish state for failure to uphold European law and under various sections of European law, failure to guarantee and enforce the Good Friday Agreement. But they haven't ended there. The targeting has come cross borders. So after we left, a meeting took place in County Tipperary. I have the records in my possession through another data disclosure. The meeting took place between the Gardaí, Tusla, and detailed anyone that I had contacted for help before I left. And then they data laundered into European systems an arrest warrant for me, and that my children were in danger because I'd mental health issues. Okay. And that wasn't enough for them. They actually created two versions of a report, one citing the Irish embassy and an Irish detective. The other version cites the Irish embassy in Brussels and a Belgian detective. Now, the reason they did that was to bypass the legal system, to trigger child investigation procedures, and to try take custody of my children from me. Now, within that data laundering, which they put into medical systems through a hospital, and they put it in through police systems and the European systems, they detailed that I was found living on the streets. I was suffering from paranoia. I had had a psychotic breakdown. I was admitted to a mental health asylum, and my children were in the care of the Belgian state. Now, of course, when I had all the records, that shows that didn't happen, okay? But there's no mechanism for an individual to have European level alerts corrected. So we're now in limbo because they continue to target us. And while we are in Belgium, we have to exhaust redress in Belgium before I can again try to apply to the European Court of Human Rights. And then separately, I tried to go to the Court of Justice for the European Union, and it's not open to lay litigants like myself. So myself and my children are sitting in limbo.
Thank you very much. The connection to Michael Lowry, we spoke about that there yesterday. And can you explain there to the listeners how that all came about?
Well, it's multifaceted, okay? So basically, as a child, my father drove lorries for Martin McGuinness. And due to that, I indirectly developed an independent relationship with Martin McGuinness, where he would ring me and we would talk on the phone. Now, there were wiretaps on the phone. I'm not, I've never done anything wrong in my life. The state ran surveillance and intelligence on me as a child because of my connection to Martin.
How old were you at that stage?
I was only in third, fourth class. I was only a child, fifth class. Okay, and there was an unwritten agreement at that time that no child was meant to be surveilled, let alone have a surveillance and intelligence record set up on them. But during those wiretaps, and I'm looking for them, and there's no reason, it has transpired at the minute, the British government have admitted, yes, we have surveillance and intelligence on you. It may have been, we may have had it, and it may have been destroyed. So I'm now going through the process to look, I want full disclosure. Anything you have on me, I want it. So I'm waiting for it. Now, in order for the United Kingdom to have surveillance and intelligence on me, that had to come from Ireland. Okay. So Ireland played games with me that basically that I had to get Martin McGuinness's signature and I had to get his identification, even though he passed away in 2017. Okay. So it's horrific abuse. They then, they've sent me to all different departments and that, we don't have any personal data on you. I went back, I cited various Good Friday Agreement laws, surveillance, the surveillance law of 2009. I cited data laws. So now it's gone to the referee and it's also gone to the processing department. But to finish your answer, the intelligence files were meant to be destroyed in 1998. Outside of me being a child, they were meant to be destroyed in 1998. I have no history of being a criminal. I have no, history full stop. I don't even have a speeding ticket. You know, I'm whistle white, like, you know, I panic with new tires on the car and the NCT on the window and the tax and insurance if there was a guard up the road in case I get stopped. It's just, I'm completely, anyone that knows me, I'm methodical and by the law. So as well as that, like the Gardaí came to my home in 2018 and they made it crystal clear where they spoke about my father, was he still driving for Martin McGuinness, even though he hadn't driven for him for over 20 years, okay? And they told me that the abuse was only getting started. And if I wanted it to stop, I'd have to go to Michael Lowry and tell my father, Michael Lowry says hello. Now, that was very brave of him when Martin McGuinness passed away in 2017, that he did this to me in 2018. Now, of course, there's a beneficiary person who benefits from me being falsified, all my records being falsified, that I've mental health, and to take custody of my children. But unfortunately, I cannot go any further on that topic right now.
Okay, yeah, understood. Understood. Well, it's definitely shocking, I guess, like, you know, there are in many levels, but again, it's I'm not surprised. I understand why that you have to stop there, definitely. But it'd be very interesting again to with some of the documents that we will provide there to back up again what you're saying. You know, and clearly Michael Lowry has broken quite a few laws here, which again is not surprising. And you know, this is enough, without a doubt, that Michael Lowry should resign from his position in the government for this. Michael Lowry's conduct is not fitting to serve inside the government, and of course, what he carried out, like, you know, again, was all these things are criminal. To target somebody, an Irish citizen, for no reason besides financial gain for a family member of Rory's. I mean, like, you know, that's problematic, like, you know, to say the least.
And as well, like, just for clarity, my great grandfather fought for the Irish Free State Army, and he passed away for the Irish Free State Army, leaving my grandmother without a father growing up, and her mother subsequently passed away in childbirth. So my family have stood and have been there for Ireland going back for generations. My great grandfather fought so that Ireland would have its own government, so that its people could rule itself. He most certainly didn't do it for somebody like Michael Lowry to come into power, where it wasn't enough that he had tortured and tormented my father for years, but he came after me. But he waited a year until after Martin McGuinness had passed away, and then used somebody that wished to harm me and to hurt me, that he manipulated and took out files. And there are a number of elements, like you said, it is criminal. Under the 1998 Good Friday Agreement, it's a serious breach under international law, okay? Separately, to actually falsify a person's records across the Gardaí, the HSC, specifically Tusla. So it's not just Tusla, it's across numerous HSC bodies. I have them all. To remove my access to state services when I had paid PRSI from the age of 14 every single year. And now I worked hard, I studied hard. So with that, obviously, majority of my income would have been in the higher income tax bracket, and I had private healthcare. So I was never a burden to the Irish state, either for me or for my children. But because of his deployment of the Irish state machinery, using the courts, using state services to falsify records, it's a vicious, inhumane torture. It goes against our constitution. No politician is allowed to do that to anyone. We didn't just endure it. It commenced in 2018. It still hasn't stopped. While we're here, we're now encountering more issues with European law. So every country within the European Union is supposed to give asylum. So that would be reception, accommodation, food, medical, whatever it may be. Okay. So at the moment, even though we have, due to my birthright, I have my British passport, making us non-European in a British capacity. We also have our Irish passports, making us European. There are no facilities. We've fallen into a limbo because the Belgian state is not prepared for a European asylum seeker. So I've now had to, and now I have to say, services stepped in. They did organise where Fidasl and Red Cross, usually they look after non-Europeans. So they did organise a body which, for security, because we're under protection, I don't want to name, we were given reception as European asylum seekers. But we need to get this clarified. So I actually have to lodge more proceedings to go to court to say, Judge, if I go to one part of the system, I'm European and I've the right of free movement, but I'm actually an asylum seeker, I'm a refugee, the very same as all the other non-Europeans who are getting reception. As a disabled woman and 2 children, our persecution is still ongoing. We have investigations launched medically and legally in Belgium. We're cornered that we cannot get the European falsifications investigated because it's up to each member state who put up the alerts to correct them if they're wrong. So we've been completely annihilated, that the Irish state machinery has crossed borders to come after me. And the thing is, if they correct one thing, it all leads back to Michael Lowry. So we are being sacrificed, that they're dismissing the Good Friday Agreement under international law. They're dismissing European law, whether that's anti-corruption, whether that's whistleblowing, whether that's complaints, whether that's data protection. Okay. And then back in Ireland, unfortunately, you can include every political party because I contacted all of them. I contacted the Taoiseach, the Tusla, all stonewalled. Okay. And this is now, bear in mind, while I speak of going to regulators' oversights, I've even gone to Drew Harris, who told me, when I told him I'm going to have to leave Ireland because there's more falsified court orders after being created, where I'm going to be put in prison. And he told me to go and get a data request, sending me back in a loop.
Yeah, crazy, absolutely crazy. But I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I say it in all our videos when I speak to people that the Irish government has perfected corruption. It is no more than a very sophisticated criminal enterprise. And the way it operates, I mean, is absolutely shocking. Corruption is part of everyday life. I mean, it's accepted within the political system about how corrupt it is. And unfortunately, there is some good politicians, I do believe that, but they're a small number, and they're terrified of the bullies that actually exist in Dáil Éireann. And the likes of Michael Lowry, I mean, he's a despicable character. And, you know, people like him, they seem to know where the bodies are buried. So they have a lot of dirt on other politicians, so they're able to cover stuff up the whole time. You're 100% correct regarding the amount of laws that he's after actually breaking with this. And there's no doubt about it. Michael Lowry should step down. You know, it's absolutely crazy. But again, thank you very much, you know, for coming forward. And I'll be in touch. I'll give you a call there over the next few days. And let's keep in touch and see what we can do here and how we can highlight this. As well as that, we'll get some more of the documents that are there. and we'll try
Yes.
and supply all them and just really blow this out of the water, because what's happening is a
Yeah.
disgrace. Forced out of
It is.
Ireland,
Yeah.
and having to
Correct.
run from Ireland to try and get asylum
Yes.
in another country because of
Uh,
Michael Lowry.
Correct. And on top of that, they've held back the documents to my home. Okay, this is all back to Michael Lowry as well. So while I'm in Belgium, they're simultaneously using the Irish state machinery to manipulate data, and they're saying that I'm living on the streets, but yet they're withholding my title deeds, which would enable me to buy a property or an apartment in Belgium to give stable accommodation. And now I'm after finding out that not alone am I going through all of this, but I'm not allowed equal rights. So I've been in a two-tier system in Ireland because I've had all my rights removed by Michael Lowry. And now I'm in Belgium. I'm in the same predicament because as an asylum seeker, I fall into tier 2. I don't fall into the same rights as non-European, even though we have the British passport. So we're meeting denial of services all over again. And I have to go to court. I've like court proceedings, I have to lodge them in French, in Dutch. I'm navigating French, Dutch, English, Italian, Portuguese, and a little bit of Czech and Polish.
Well, hey, thank you very much. And, it's, again, whatever we can do, I'm sure we can definitely push this quite a bit. And, we have to highlight it.
Yeah.
I know some folks I'll try and get it to again and try and push this up along the food chain and put a bit of much pressure on the Irish government as possible to resolve this matter and sort out Michael Lowry for once and for all.
You see, the issue with Michael Lowry, how now, and on that, I submitted 8 statements to the superintendent of Nina Garda Station in County Tipperary to arrest him with the evidence of what he did. They were all stonewalled. So then I got the data for the specific department where there had been Garda misconduct to say, look, how do I go to County Tipperary? Because the superintendents are appointed by Michael Lowry and they're implicated with 3 Gardaí who falsified my records.
Have you copies of those Garda statements?
I do, yes. I have
Fantastic.
everything. I've all the data. Everything is written.
Fantastic. On that note, let's talk later. And looking forward to actually trying to get this resolved. Thank you.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.